It is time to make the sound to summon the stream. Greetings, dear viewers. I'm Quill Quickcard, and welcome back to RPG Maker, where I am continuing to build an RPG while integrating as many suggestions from my viewers as possible. This was supposed to be streamed yesterday morning, but I was in no state to do so, so here we are. Last time we worked on the barracks, and in between then and now, I created a puzzle in the library, and I also built another room, the armory, which is going to let you access the surface of the Locky again, and will also go down into the undead mines. And then those mines will connect to a flesh dungeon, which is what we are going to work on today. So today is mostly just going to be map work, designing a flesh dungeon, and seeing what kind of ideas we can come up with. I'm like trying to rack my brain here. There was somewhere I put a clue to the puzzle in the library, and I cannot remember where the hell I put it. Did I put it on one of the zombies here? Yes. Okay, there it is. This zombie is holding a note which contains the clue to the library. The library door should be accessible. There should be a preliminary scene available in the library. I just want to test all of that before we go any further today. Alright. Okay, something giant zombies carrying. It might be important. And we get the key to the seminary. Okay. So that scene works as intended. We should be able to get into here. Yes. All the bars can be spitting bars, because that's what people wanted. Okay. Good. The armory is functioning as it should before we get the key. So this zombie has a key. Good. We will check all of the stuff previously built. We got a donut from you. Bottle caps from you. A cheap energy drink from you. Bottle of Pepsi. 50 bottle caps. Okay. So now we can grab all the books. We have the Abridged Adventures of Corpus. The Lakia's Best Chili Recipes. Lessons on Proper Prayer. Tears of the Dead. Necromancy for Dummies, Jeremy's Guide to Corpse Preservation, and Dangerous Magical Practices. So now what we do is we put all the books into these bookshelves in alphabetical order. So here we put The Abridged Adventures of Corpus, Dangerous Magical Practices, Jeremy's Guide to Corpse Preservation, Lessons on Proper Prayer, Necromancy for Dummies, Tears of the Dead. The mic is peaking way higher than it should be. That would be why. Okay, there we go. The noise cancellation switch wasn't on. That might explain the mic problems I was having when I recorded yesterday. That is unfortunate that I didn't notice it until now. Okay. We can take back the books that we've already put on the shelf, so that functions. And if we get them all in order, the zombie awkwardly pulls a scroll from inside its shirt and hands it to you. You got the Scroll of Elegy of Death. Okay, that is way too loud. That music absolutely needs to be turned down. Turn down the music in the seminary and barracks. Very good. So we should now have the armory key. And this is a scroll that teaches a new spell for Thatcher. The Elegy of Death deals damage and may kill instantly. So, it's a pretty expensive spell. Deals very heavy dark elemental damage to up to an enemy. Definitely have to adjust the description. Just description of Elegy of Death skill. Hello, welcome back, Solomon. We're just going over stuff that I built in between last stream and now, and we have not started on the Flesh Dungeon yet. Make sure the instant death effect of Elegy of Death is functional. I do not even remember how I made it work. Let's see. Had to go to the store and buy pasta, and now I'm going to watch your stream while I cool my meal. Sounds like a good plan. We're going to keep grabbing things from the zombies, like a bag of cocaine. And some bottle caps. Okay. And this way leads to the barracks. Good, that's all functioning. Okay. The doors work. This one's holding cursed bombs. This one doesn't have anything. This one's holding jerky, blood soda, 30 bottle caps, confirm the library hint zombie. I don't know if that one was actually working yet or not. And a vile raiment. And finally, we can access the armory. Alright, this is actually gonna drive me crazy. Add olive oil or butter? I prefer butter. But olive oil's healthier. Okay, that is so damn loud. Absolutely needs to be adjusted. Okay. So we're going to copy this. So that even if you solve the book puzzle, it will let you see it once. I think that's better. Now let's adjust the music for the seminary. And the living area. And the library. Please stop playing the music. Thank you. Hello, Zero Valley. Welcome to the stream. So I should have a brief scene here when you get to the armory where they're like, wow, there's so much stuff here. And that's sort of the last thing that I've designed chronologically. It did not activate. Okay. Design it on Event Touch. We confirmed the library hint zombie. We turned down the music. I have to adjust the description of Elegy of Death. Deals very heavy dark damage to an enemy. Low chance to kill the target instantly. And so it has a 5% chance to add the Doom state, which will give you a message when it is applied. And then that triggers the Death Bolt kill, where it instantly kills any enemy that is affected by Doom. So that's how I made that work. And then we just have to make bosses moving forward completely immune to the Doom condition, and then none of them will be subject to instant death. Okay, that works. Alright, let's see the armory scene. What's all this? So they have a look around. There's enough here to field an entire army. And in good condition, too. And then we hear a sound. What was that? It sounds like it came from up ahead. And this is where we have, like, the forge area. and then there'll be a zombie fight, and then you'll get past the gate, and then you'll have access to this, and this is meant to be an elevator. And so this will go up to the Wallachia storeroom and down to the undead mines. Okay, so all of that is functioning. We do need to make a quick adjustment to the inside tile set. There we go. Make sure you can't walk on that. And I don't really think we need the GUR. Okay. That is all good, which means we are now ready to start building a flesh dungeon. So, unlike many other flesh dungeons, this one is not intended to be an actual, like, interior of some kind of living creature. Rather, this... Let's just make it big to start. This flesh dungeon is basically another section of the undead mines where, like, untreated zombie flesh that didn't quite get, incinerated in the furnace has kind of leaked out and started to grow. So it's more like an organic growth of necrotic flesh, as well as a community of, other life forms that have taken up residence. So there should be some logic to the construction of the flesh dungeons. It should follow a somewhat natural course. But it should be natural in the sense of, like, a cavern, rather than natural in the sense of, like, an internal anatomy. And these were being used as mines. If it doesn't make me want to vomit my pasta from grossness, you failed to make it a flesh dungeon. Let's see here. So, first things first, when you come into here, it will start out as, like, a normal looking mine, and then we'll basically transition more and more into the fleshy bits. So let's have, like, a flesh section here. You can always throw out enemy ideas, sure. I wonder if it would be best to design, like, the outline of what I'm going for first. Because then I'll have, like, a general shape of the dungeon to work with. So we access this from the mines, and then eventually it's going to lead to the furnace. So let's put the entrance to the furnace over here. And this is going to be more like just dark stone. Okay. So what is the general shape that I'm going for here? We kind of need like a straightaway. Because it is a mine, so a lot of stuff is being taken to like a central corridor. And then like a couple of primary shafts off of the main shaft. And those can sort of go into more of like a windy sort of direction. A basic chamber sort of used for like administration. There we go. Have a little loop here. So I think going for a lot of different chambers is a good general design for like a mine. Just get like these rough outlines going. Yes, phone, I know I'm receiving texts. You don't have to remind me. And another few offshooting passages and corridors. Like that. And like that. And we can have this passage double back on itself. This one can go here. These two can connect. And these two can connect here. So I think this is a good general layout for the mine. So I want all of the main passages. These are very distinctly man-made passages. So I think running 3 wide is good for the primary passages. Yeah, just like that. Okay. Flesh pile. It's a combination of a bunch of flesh bits combined by mysterious magical energy. Every second of its existence, it's in pain, doesn't want to live, and effectively tries to die. Yes, that's a good idea. there's definitely going to be stuff like that. Let's start working on getting some of the passages laid out, and then we'll work on designing different bits with the flesh. But I really need to see what I am working with first. I need to be able to visualize the macro level design of the dungeon, and that will help inspire the direction. I want it to mostly just be a maze. But I could put like a few traps and obstacles, stuff like that, into it. Sure. Look like that, like that, like that. Okay, and then lengthen up that corridor a bit. So does that work for the basic design? We can have this go a little bit further. I think that works. It is definitely going to be a big dungeon. So it's going to be more of like an opportunity to find treasure and fight enemies. So now that I have the basic structure of it settled, we can start to design. There we go. We can start to design the portions that are going to be more fleshy. So this whole section is going to be fleshy. We'll have some flesh here. It will be a little bit more restrained here in the early parts. And then it will really get more severe the further in you go. So this whole section up here is going to be fleshed. And just a bit of a smaller section here. Little flesh patch. There's going to be a small flesh patch here. But this is closer to the furnace. where the flesh isn't really growing all that much. This whole section will be flesh. This whole area will be flesh. A few flesh patches. There we go. And a little bit in the corner. Little patch right here. This entire section is going to be flesh. And then we'll have a long flesh patch going down here. So I think that works for the fleshy bits of the dungeon. Yeah, I think that's okay. So now I have to have walls. So first we will build the flesh walls. Really gonna need to zoom in to do this efficiently without making mistakes. Well, without making too many mistakes. I already know for a fact I will definitely make mistakes as I go through this. And that's okay. Okay. There we go. And flesh, 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 flesh. What's annoying is removing the shadows every time I add walls. Your game doesn't have shadows. Oh, yeah. The automatic shadow tool is definitely more of a hindrance than a help if you don't want to have them. I am genuinely curious. You do know you can remove shadows by holding down shift, though, right? That was one of the newer features they added to RPG Maker MZ, and it is honestly a lifesaver. Put that here, that here, that here. First, we just make the outline And then we'll have to go in and create all of the other walls as well. Okay. Not bad. Now we have to work on the next section of the walls. Just like that. Whoops. Whoops. Okay. We'll do the wall outlining later. First, let's just focus on following the walls. Just like that, like that, like that, like that. This is going to be a slow, methodical process. I need to be cautious and I need to be patient. It's going to save me a lot of hassle if I just get this right the first time. Almost meditative. Yeah, when I work on these sort of projects, I very much get myself into a very zen-y state. It is, in fact, almost meditative. The best part is when you reach the point where your mind just starts seeing all of the things automatically, all the event commands, all the triggers. Everything just is so obvious and clear in your mind. And even if you would have trouble vocalizing it, you can see exactly what you want to do and exactly how you need to do it. That is the absolute perfect flow state that I aspire to reach, and it is always just very, very pleasant. Let's play something, though. What about some field music? Not quite the vibe I'm going for. Not really. Nah. There we go. That one is nice and meditative. Just nice, relaxing time, slowly carving walls out of nothing. I think I basically got it. Alright, next part. Let's outline the flesh walls. Okay. Okay. I think it's going pretty well so far. The really tough part comes when it's time to, like, decorate this with all the various doodads and stuff. That is where the process gets a lot harder. I'm also not entirely sure how good it's going to look. I hope I'm able to sort of sell the vibe I'm going for with this. It is definitely a more challenging type of vibe. Whoops. Every good game needs a flesh dungeon. That's just a fact. Flesh dungeons are traditional. Final Fantasy V had its flesh dungeon. Final Fantasy II had, like, the inside of the Leviathan, which was, you know, basically its own flesh dungeon. Ah. Okay. So here's an area where I definitely need to add some more fleshy walls. Final Fantasy VI's is a little harder to pin down, but I do think that the floating continent was at least organic enough that it counts. But then, of course, also there is, like, the Zone Eater's Belly, which, even though it just looks like a straight cave, I think definitely counts as a flesh dungeon. Just a very, very rocky flesh dungeon. I think I'm good to start the next section of the design. Alright, this is the big one. This is the mine walls. And if I am lucky, this will help tie everything together. Honestly, this spot's just going to be a lot easier if I just stick with the flesh wall. There we go, just like that. It's the transition points between the stone and the flesh ceilings that I am concerned just really don't quite look natural. But I think it will be okay. I think once I, like, decorate the interior more, and, I think it'll really flow pretty good. Put some flesh here. Okay. I didn't beat FF5, so I don't remember, but I remember that Leviathan from FF2. Yeah, that is a fantastic set piece. Okay, put that here. I think this is going well. FF2 is underrated also. I think it is very difficult to get past the gameplay issues of FF2, but it easily and by far has the most like mature storyline of any of the first 3 FF games. And it doesn't really get enough credit for that. The system of inputting phrases into dialogue was, you know, quite revolutionary as well. I think the entire Final Fantasy series could have gone in somewhat of a different direction if that system had been integrated into FF3 and onward. But I do think there's a lot in FF2 that are very, very questionable design choices. And definitely the first thing that comes to mind is the entire gameplay system. Just the entire system of character growth. Definitely could have been done better. But I understand it. Like, they wanted a very different system, more in line with, like, a more modern RPG, where your character would get better at things that they did a lot of. And that was extremely ambitious. I do think FF2 went a little ridiculous with the number of side character deaths, though. It went so crazy with side character deaths that in the GBA release, FF1 and 2 Dawn of Souls literally added an entire side story where you're just the dead characters in the afterlife. There should not be enough characters dead to let you do that. And I do think that the whole thing with Ultima, where you're essentially going on, like, this important quest to find, like, this legendary lost magic, and then the legendary lost magic is effectively worthless and useless. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm really not a big fan of how it handled the Ultima thing. Like, if it was an ongoing theme of the game, if it was an ongoing theme of the game, the idea that, like, these lost ancient things are not as good as what we have now, you know, presumptively because metallurgy and magic have also advanced in the last several centuries or thousands of years. If that was an ongoing, persistent theme throughout it, I think it would have actually been better. Hello, Coles. Yeah, it's a rare Monday stream. Since I didn't do this yesterday. Like, if you went after, like a legendary sword earlier in the game or something, and then it turned out that the legendary sword was, like, broken or something, or weaker, then I think the Ultima thing would have come off better, I think. And you definitely could have played with that notion more. The ranking system could work in this RPG too. Integrating the ranking system in the RPG at this point, we are 10 months into development. I would have to rebalance character growth for the entire game. Because the rate at XP and Gold game would be different. So I don't think it's practical to integrate the ranking system into the project at this time. I think I like it better if I also outline the flesh walls. Why not just make it gold? Again, I have to rebalance stuff. Like, if I integrate the ranking reward system into this project at this point, it's basically going to be plus 10 to 15 hours of playtesting and rebalancing things. It could be done. Absolutely it could be done. But I think it would add a crapload more of development time that's not really paid off by what it would have. That being said, though, I could definitely institute the ranking reward system for specific areas in the future. Like if I had an arena or a coliseum or something like that. I could definitely use performance-based reward systems for something like that. But as far as integrating it into the entire project, I don't think it's practical at this point. Yeah, for some bosses, there will be situations where I can utilize it. Did you ever test the performance-based reward system, by the way? Because I did develop that when I had been awake for close to 24 hours and was not in clear headspace. And I genuinely do not know if the clear vision I received of how to make the system possible even functioned, or if it was just a delusion brought on by sleep deprivation at that point. But back to FF2, like, you basically, you get Ultima, and they're like, oh, this is the thing that's going to fix everything. And then it sucks. Mechanically, just in the game, it's not a reliable spell to use. And on top of that, immediately after, the Emperor basically has a world-destroying tornado that he has magically conjured with his castle sitting on top of it. So, clearly, whatever new magics the Emperor is using are vastly superior to the magics that are being employed by the Rebellion. And I think if it drew more attention to that, and then did something with it, maybe by, like, having the characters, like, realize, like, they're about to go on, like, another quest for some kind of ancient artifact, and be like, no, this doesn't work. Like, times have changed. Technology's gotten better. We don't need to keep relying on these old things. I think if something like that happened, I think the whole issue with Ultima would be better. Okay. So we need to outline a few more walls. But overall, yes, I completely agree that that Final Fantasy II is underrated. However, I think it's important to clarify exactly what I mean by underrated. I would say that Final Fantasy II, compared to other games of its era, is probably like a 7.5 out of 10. When you have a series as good as Final Fantasy, the worst game in your series is still going to be better than the average game of any other series. But the thing is, compared to like FF1 and FF3, I mean, those are basically like solid 9 out of 10s. At least. So when you're comparing against 9 out of 10s, a 7.5 out of 10 really does shine as like a lesser example. Okay. I think we are just about done with the wall placement. So I had to rebuild my morals after basically had to start from scratch. Basically what happened is I accidentally zeroed my portal... Oh, fuck. I'm so sorry to hear that. Hello, Audrey. The Flesh Dungeon looks like Neapolitan ice cream right now. Yes. Yes, it kind of does. Hopefully it will look better. Once we get it decorated more. Why did that flesh look appetizing? Because it's delicious. Alright, let's look at the dungeon from, like, a macro level. Okay. Let's just add something to teleport me into there and just to walk around it a bit and get a feel for it. See how it looks from the ground level. Also, Maceda hunting in Pokemon Sword right now. What are you after specifically? Oh, God. Add some muscle tones. Bound Sweet. Ooh, you want yourself a sexy Sarina, is that it? I can appreciate that. I can appreciate someone who wants a sexy Sarina. Okay, so it is going to be decorated more. Like, there's going to be rocks and stones. There's going to be a lot more variation in the ground texture, which is going to help it pop more. Bro, it's a plant and I'm under 18. Why are you talking about it like that? Because Sarina's entire aesthetic, and I truly believe intentionally from the ground up, is basically got a step on me vibe. I don't know why it was designed like this, but that's clearly what was gone for. It is weird, but it is what it is. Okay, so a couple spots, and I know your freaky ass enjoys it. Honestly, that is not one of my areas of fetishistic interest. Okay. That works. That works really well. So now the next thing we are going to do is add some darker areas like pustules all around the fleshy bits. Just keep them kind of irregularly placed. They should very, very rarely be adjacent to each other. So this is our first spot of very variation. Just a little bit of extra ground texture. Are you going specifically for a shiny? Well, I mean, you're going for that many hatches. You're obviously going for a shiny. Okay. Put eyes in the wall and give them jaundice. Okay. Eyes in the wall. I might be able to do that. I might have some kind of doodad that would function as an eye. We already know that one of the types of enemies we're going to find down here in the flesh pits is the Amogus. The imposter. Using a sprite that was made for me months ago. Okay, are there any flesh areas that did not get sores on them? Okay, that all looks good. And now for some other parts, we're going to give it crack areas, like places where skin has dried. And cracked. So little, like, fleshy fissures. We don't need as many of these as we have the pustules. But this is going to be another element that is really going to help sell it. And we can definitely put some of this on the walls as well. What if you could water some of the cracked areas to heal them and get some extra cash? I don't want to have too much in this area that's interactable, aside from just treasures. Just because this is a very, very, very big area. And the player is going to be fighting things this whole time, too. So I want it to be more of just an aesthetic. So I mean, we'll have a few treasures in here, but mostly this area is just meant to be like a maze that you work through. Okay. So that is the next patch. How does this look? Ooh, that's almost like scar tissue. And the green? I don't like the green. What about purple. The purple I can have some on the stone. I like the idea of having some of this. This is going to be a lot less common. And they're just going to be in connected lines, like scar tissue. And we can have some of that on the walls as well. But these are not going to be as common. Ooh, that looks cool. That looks really cool. The way it's just connected like that. Okay. Yeah, like this big elongated gash in the ground. Okay. Alright, let's take a look at it from the ground level again. Also, in my game, the ranking system would work like there are 7 ranks. Having that many ranks, you're basically going to have dozens and dozens of common events. Oh, god damn it. I didn't save after I activated this ability. Okay. Okay. Cole, I'm going to be honest. I think if you want to do a multi-ranking system like that, this is going to be so much extra work. But I genuinely think one of the easier ways to do a ranking system like you're describing is to have multiple copies of each enemy. I mean, I did just save, so I can show you what I mean. I think the easiest way to do that would be to have multiple copies of your enemies. Like, here is your Wendigo. And here would be, like, a Wendigo where you've gotten, like, a little bit of a bonus. And here would be a Wendigo where you've gotten, like, more of a bonus. And here's a Wendigo where you've gotten, like, a super good bonus. And then in every enemy troop, you would basically have it run a turn counter. So, for example, I could have a Wendigo. And it would start out with the highest reward Wendigo. And then, say on turn... on running once per battle. So... at the end of turn 3, it would do an enemy transform, and it would take the Wendigo and turn them into the next version. So, same enemy, but with less reward. And then at the end of turn 5, it would turn it into the next lowest, and so on and so forth. It would be It would take a very long time to do it, especially if you have dozens and dozens of enemies. But I think doing that would probably be one of the easier ways to have a very precisely calibrated reward system. But it would take a lot of work. Alright, let's go walk around the Flesh Dungeon again, now that we've added some more texture. Ooh. Oh, yeah, this looks much better. That looks so very much better. And it actually really works well for the gashes in the wall. I like this. I like this a lot. Okay. So we are definitely on the right track. Now, as far as the dungeon thing is set, we're just going to make a copy of this specifically for the Flesh Dungeon, where you can't step on the scar tissue and you can't step in the purple. I feel like making the meat color darker would make it look not like ice cream. Yes, but I do not have a default ability to do that. I would have to manually alter... I would have to manually alter the coloring of the sprite sheet. Although, since I am using a custom tile set, I mean, I can do it. Let's go ahead and open up my project folder. Skit World MZ image tile sets. Okay. So these two files, these three files, 4 files, 5 piles will all need to be opened up. Okay. We're going to need GIMP. Damn it. Just launch GIMP. Come on. Okay. So we can do this. But we are going to have to modify multiple things, and we're going to have to do it very carefully. Okay. Yeah. Keep the color profiles. It's fine. Yes. Keep. Okay. So now we really just want to modify the fresh function. How do you set up that funky turn timer again? You'll have to reference the Discord. I already removed the function that I used to take the screenshots. And okay, so colors. Okay, so I don't want to invert, although that actually looked really cool. Let's take out. Uh, hmm. Now. Uh. Maybe just playing with the color temperature a bit. No. What about just playing with the chroma a little bit? I am terrible with this sort of stuff. Alright, what if we just increase the contrast ever so slightly while decreasing the brightness? I think that's it. I think it's brightness minus 15, contrast 15. Okay, so this is going to be Dungeon A4 mod. Discord. So we know how to modify the coloring now. And it's okay if we have some spillover into tiles that we're not using. So brightness, last used right now. Ooh, yeah, that is beautiful. Okay, so that's going to be Dungeon A5 mod. And now we need to make the changes to some of the doodads. There we go. And colors. Adjust. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Look at that. It's a subtle difference, but I think it's really going to help. Am I going to use flesh pillars? Nah, we're not going to use flesh pillars. colors, adjust. Very good. And then colors, adjust. Okay. And that's Dungeon A2 mod. I like VX's approach in equipable items that you can select what specific items the character equips, not just one type. There are definitely advantages to both systems. So Dungeon A1 mod, we don't need to change. Dungeon A2 mod, we do need to change. A4 mod. A5 mod. And Dungeon B mod. Okay. And set that to Flesh Dungeon. Ooh, I can already see the difference in the contrast. Okay. How does that look? That definitely pops a bit more. It is a subtle adjustment in the contrast, but the details on the flesh are definitely more prominent now. Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. Is there something I can use for, like, a blood fountain or, like, a burst of... Let's see. None of those are quite what I'm looking for. That's just a bunch of crystals. No, none of that. None of that. No. I don't really think there's something like what I'm looking for, but it's always worth checking. Still, I can have a handful of spots that are just like holes. Okay. Okay. I think that's pretty good. So now that we've got that, let's add a little bit of texturing. to the ground portions. Does the damage formula accept 3.5? I would imagine it would. Okay. And this is where we start setting up the minecart system. Just like that. Okay. So you go up a little bit more. Okay. And that goes up here. And this goes up here as well. Okay. That looks good. So now we've got that set out. We'll just continue to add some lighter portions of the ground. But not in spots where the mine carts are. We can assume that those spots represent like places where the ground has been very heavily compacted. There we go. Just like that. Perfect. And now a couple places where the ground is lighter that have a bit of water in them. Okay. There. I like it. I think it looks pretty good. So now let's add a bunch of big slag piles. Just put those around. Okay. Okay. That works. And now let's start decorating the flesh more. We're going to add a bunch of these growths. Okay. There we go. And now some smaller growths. I think I'm actually getting pretty close to finishing up the Flesh Dungeon. Also, I like how some of my game's elements are speed, smoke, and plant right next to each other. I swear it's not a drug joke. Even if it was, it would probably go over my head. I am not, nor have I ever been, a drug user in any meaningful capacity. I tried marijuana once in my life, and that was actually only just a few years ago. Purely out of curiosity, I did not find its effects particularly pleasant. I prefer keeping my head clear, and it had a rather considerable effect on limiting my short-term memory. Not to mention made my eyes sensitive. I didn't find the experience unpleasant, but I did not find anything about it that was enjoyable either. So, decided, well, that was a good experiment, and moved on with my life. And haven't worried about it since. Hi, pals. Where's the bones? It's not a flesh pit with that exposed connection. Oh. Oh my god, you're right. All of this stuff grew from refuse out of the grim furnace. But obviously the thing that's least likely to be incinerated is bone. Why didn't this occur to me? Okay. Alright, hold on. We're gonna need to... We're gonna need to think about this. Do these work as eyes? No. God, those actually do look really good. Okay, hold on. Let's stop, and let's think about this logically. My head is slowly thinking, considering different options. None of that is especially good. How do the vines look? The viney tendrils work pretty well. Okay, surely there's something I could use for an eye? How about that? So is the dirt just cooked meats and texture, or just really... Wait. I think this works. I think this works, like the sewer grate for an eyeball. There we go. Yeah. It's probably going to be the best option we have. Yeah. I think this is the best option I've got. For eyes. Dungeon may seem mean, but it's mostly lean. just a few of these, definitely not sewer grates on the wall. They are definitely eyes. Okay, I think that works. Next thing on the list is to add a few of these smaller growths. And so that it doesn't interfere with pathing, we're going to put them near walls, where it's kind of suggesting that these are like the earliest stage of the flesh growth. Bones. I can put a few skeletons closer to the furnace entrance. I think that would be the best way to represent them. We can get, like, sort of the environmental suggestion that some stuff that wasn't fully incinerated by the furnaces was, like, started rotting, and that's where, like, the fleshy growth all started. Okay. These eyeballs really flesh out the area. No need to cry when you're never alone. Okay, we need someone to tell the puns. I'm tired of waiting for Quill to make them, so I'm gonna do it. Something that always bothered me about fleshy interiors is the lack of fungus inside. Without an immune system, fungi live in moist environments and lots of biofast. I find it humorous. We can basically assume that a lot of this is probably fungal in nature. Okay. So, I think in terms of environmental storytelling, the best thing is to have, like, a patch of flesh here. And a few skeletons. Well, let's put a skeleton here and here. And then, like, a lot of growth around them. Okay. I think that works. So now we need... A few basic mine carts. There we go. And then in the spots around the mine carts, we'll have some of this. Discarded shovels just littered around. Some pickaxes. A few shovels around a few of the slag piles. One of these days I'm going to sketch out a scallop enemy like the Dark Souls 1 clans with distinct eyes and conch legs, crab claws as appendages. I found this place starting to get quite fleshed out, like my very bone abode. What's the stalagmite if not a cave, the teeth of a cave? All tunnels can be caves if you're low enough. Alright, let's take a look at this again from the ground level. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, I like this. Okay, this actually properly is really looking like a mine that has like fleshy growths throughout it. Yeah. Yeah, I like this. My eyes have an okay time tracking where I can and can't go. Ooh. If only there was a gaseous overlay. I know older RPG Maker versions actually had like a fog option. This looks really good. This looks really good. And then this way leads into, like, the furnace. I like this a lot. I really, really like this. This looks pretty good. No. Cool, I made a character for the puns. I am curious. Um... Hmm. Uh... Not really anything I can do there. Let's make it a little more clear that this is like the exit point, though. Um, there we go. Just like that. No, let's go with the darker stone wall on top. There we go. Looks a little too bright, I think. The darker stone. Yeah. Yeah, I think darker wall just works better here. Um, is there like a darker variant of the ground that I can use, though? Not really. Okay. Well, we can add a few of these around the dark or around the lighter areas. Um, this is probably about all I'm going to end up doing for today. It has been a couple hours, and I did get quite a lot done. I'm pretty pleased with the flesh dungeon that we have built. Um, so I have a lot to work on with the entire necropolis. I have a lot that needs to be worked on over the next couple of weeks. Um, Actually, Cole, there are going to be signs. Um, like that. As much as this is a maze for the players, it is intended to be, when it was up and running, a functional mine. So it is actually going to have like some signs, and like the furnace will be, like clearly marked. Um, Aw, this guy's kind of punny. I like that, Cole. Well made. Um, but I think this is basically enough for now. Uh, Next week's RPG Maker stream, well, I guess this week's now, the RPG Maker stream on Sunday is not going to be the community project. On that day, I am going to be working on my bad gotcha game project. And then the week after that, I'll come back to the community RPG Maker project. By then, I should have basically everything in the first part of the Graveyard Gardens done. So we should have the barracks done, the armory, the events following the armory, the undead mines, a new tier of gear, monster encounters, a whole bunch of stuff will probably be done by then. And we can start worrying about designing the Grim Furnace and the fight with the zombie dragon, or zombie dragon, lich dragon, whatever you want to call it. In the mines, you'll also get the next tier of bottle cap ore, which means I'm going to have to design a whole new set of craftables. So yeah, I've got a lot of work to do, and most of it is stuff that I need to do before we can really proceed with new stuff. So that's why I'm taking a week off. A week off of streaming this project, just because there's a lot of crap I need to do, which is not going to be interesting or fun to look at, and preferably I need to do it without getting more like suggestions thrown at me. I am also pleased to announce that this project, the Community RPG Maker project, has now been going on for more than 10 months. We are actually close to hitting the 1-year anniversary. I think my first stream of the RPG Maker project was like August 4th or 6th or something last year. So we're coming up on a full year of this project, which is absolutely crazy. I absolutely love this. This is something I always wanted to do when I started my channel, and now I get to, and I'm so happy. It's been an insane project. I've loved almost every minute of it. There needs to be a wall here. There. So yeah, I think that's it. I should go run and take care of other things that I need to get done for today. So, thank you all so much for watching. To commemorate the 1-year anniversary of this project, I will be having sort of like a little sweepstakes that I will set up later for viewers. And whoever wins it, in whatever form I end up setting it up, will get to design an entire city with me. We'll just, in some way, either you'll be there in chat, or there can be a Discord call. It can either be on stream or off stream, but whoever wins gets to design an entire city in this game, and I will do my best to achieve their vision. So, could be pretty interesting. That should be it for now. And thank you all so much. I will see you all in the next one. It is time to make the noise to summon the end of the stream. wow, 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 wow.